Hi YouTube, this is Sherman, and like I said, I was going to make another video. Um, there are many things to discuss, and this is the forum to do it. Once again, I would like to say thank you to the people who have made videos in the past. They've proved to be a source of real encouragement, and over the past weeks or months, I've got the opportunity to talk to some of the other people who are making videos, and just to understand their ideas and their different points of view, especially those who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I would like to say this in reference to that. One of the things that I do find when speaking to people who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, some of them are upset because of the experiences that they've had, the things that they've went through, the time they've spent in the organization, come to find out that we were standing on a false foundation. So some people are very irritated with that fact, and they have good reason to be offended because of the fact that they had been misled and deceived for years. And so some people have the right to be offended about that, and others have a different point of view. But I appreciate all of my brothers and sisters, and one thing I would like to say is that I do consider them brothers and sisters because of the work that they have done. And I remember one of the scriptures, that says, Jehovah is not a God unrighteous so as to forget your hard work. And so even though this work was misguided, it was definitely hard work. The hours in field service, the hours volunteering, helping others, all of those were good things. And one of the things I still appreciate about the brothers who I get to meet on this site, and I continue to call them brothers because we are talking about a people who are in search of true worship. We're talking about a group of people who are in search of truth, a group of people who are in search of pure worship. And based on this, it's definitely a good idea to continue to refer to each other as brothers and sisters. And even when it comes to the fact that people take the time out of their schedule to make videos like these, it's evidence of their concern, their desire to help others. The same way when we went into the ministry, we felt that we were helping others to understand the truth. But this also is a form of reaching out to others, helping people understand the truth. I myself can attest to that because for many years I was a New York City fireman. And my job was to go in and help people, to go in and rescue people. It was a very easy job for me because I had grown up helping others and looking to help others. But when it comes to videos like this and information like this, it's definitely an attempt to reach people. It's definitely an attempt to help people out of a dangerous situation. I remember years ago, when I was serving as an elder and I was giving public talks, I remember using an illustration, and it was an illustration about CPR. And many of us know what CPR is, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And basically, what happened with the invent of CPR was it was found out that if a person had drowned and was no longer conscious, believed to be dead, they could be pulled out the water and CPR could be performed, and these persons would have an opportunity for life. And so prior to this, when people had drowned, they just were presumed dead and they were left alone. But once CPR came into play, people were pulled out of the water even after they had been submerged for a period of time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but they would be able to be pulled out, resuscitated, and then they would have the opportunity to live again. And so when I gave the talk, I remember applying that illustration or that historical event, the invention of CPR, applying it to the ministry. And the fact that when we went out to the ministry, we would be looking for people who had been submerged in false religion for years. and we would look and we would pull them out, we would help them and bring them back to life, spiritual life, so to speak, even after they had been submerged in this false religion for years. And so at this point in my career, or at this point in my life, I'm finding the need to apply that same event to what's going on now as it relates to Jehovah's Witnesses. It's very difficult because some of us, some Jehovah's Witnesses, have been submerged in this way of thinking, submerged in false doctrine and deceit for many years, and it's difficult to pull people out of that submersion, so to speak. But it can be done. People can be pulled out, and they can be helped, and they can regain spiritual health. So that's just one thing that I wanted to mention. But it's very difficult. Many times people are unable to listen. Many times people are afraid to listen because that's just how we had been conditioned. Anything that was outside of the doctrine of the Watchtower, the doctrine of the governing body, people were afraid to listen to. And so that's a very sad thing. So it's very difficult to reach people. One thing that I found helpful, and one thing that many will find helpful as it relates to Jehovah's Witnesses, is a thing that we all know, and it's called humility. And I remember watching a lecture once when a woman was giving a speech, and she asked a question. She says, "What does it feel like to be wrong?" And so people would raise their hand, and they gave different answers. Some people felt that they said that they were ashamed, and some people said that they were hurt, and some people said that they were disappointed, and among many other answers. And the lady, the instructor, stopped them, and she just pointed out to them. She said, "Well, you've answered the wrong question." She said, "The question that you answered was, what does it feel like when you find out that you are wrong?" So her point was that being wrong feels the same as being right because you feel you're right. But these other feelings of shame and guilt and embarrassment, all of those feelings come into play only when you find out that you are wrong, or that you acknowledge, or when you acknowledge that you were wrong, or what you did, or what you thought was wrong. So being wrong feels the same as being right. And that's one of the valuable lessons I learned in life. And it all relates back to humility. And it relates to the fact that when we enter into a situation and when we're looking for information, and when we're looking for knowledge, or if we have an idea, a thought, we need to always acknowledge the fact that what we think or what we feel we know, we could be wrong. So there's a possibility that our idea, our thought, or our belief is wrong. And so once we approach things with this way of thinking, it allows us to bring into play other ideas. It allows us to listen. It allows us to be willing to explore and to be willing to learn. Just acknowledging the fact that we don't know everything, and there's a possibility that how we feel or what we believe is wrong. So humility is something that many Jehovah's Witnesses, many people who are in the organization need to work on. Many people, they feel they are humble, they feel they understand what humility is, but when you're the type of person and you're unwilling to accept another point of view, and you're unwilling to listen to another idea because you believe, not because you know, but because you believe you have what is the truth, it's a transgression on your part, because you definitely lack humility or the wherewithal to acknowledge that there's the possibility that you are wrong. And so this is something that Jehovah's Witnesses are taught. They're taught to believe that only their way of thinking is right, and that only their viewpoints are correct. And so this is something that is a hurdle for those who are trying to help Jehovah's Witnesses who are still within the organization to get out. It kind of reminds me of a funny story It was a story about three men who were trying to get into heaven. And as they went up to the receptionist at the gate, the woman asked the first man, she says, well, what is your religion? And the guy says, well, I'm a Baptist. So she says, okay, well, go to room 13, but be very quiet when you go by room number 8. And so he goes on to his room, and then the next person comes up, and she says, well, what religion are you? And the next person says, well, I'm a Muslim. She says, okay, go to room 89. She says, but when you go past room number 8, be very quiet. And so the guy goes on in, and then the third one comes up. He's an atheist, and the woman, what religion are you? She's writing it down. She says, well, I'm an atheist. She says, well, go to room number 18, but when you go past room number 8, be very quiet, So the atheist, always questioning things. He says, well, listen, why do I have to be quiet while I go by room number 8? And so, the receptionist, she kindly says, well, listen, the Catholics are in room number 8, and they think that they're the only ones up here. So that story illustrates a point. It illustrates the point that when it comes to certain people, when it comes to certain religions, they feel that they are the only ones. They feel that they are the only source of information, the only source of truth. But it's just simply not true. So just wanted to share these, these thoughts with you. On another note, just thank everybody who's putting forth such hard work on putting out these videos. In my next video, I would like to talk about family and the effect that the Jehovah's Witnesses has had upon our families, my family. I hope my children at some point get to see this video. I hope that my other family at some point gets to see this video. And I would just like to remind people who do get to see our videos that the people who make these videos are respectable people. These are the same people who served as elders in your congregation and ministerial servants and pioneers and people that were looked up to in the congregation. So why all of a sudden would such people be demented, or why all of a sudden would such people be mentally diseased? It just doesn't make sense. So if, as a Jehovah's Witness, you had the courage to confide in such people, to look to advice for such people, what would be the difference? The only difference is that they've learned better and that they understood that what they were taught wasn't right. So as intelligent people, it's our responsibility to find out what is true and to follow it. So looking forward to talking to you guys again. Have a great night.